The scorching sun beat down mercilessly on Amelia Prescott's cracked lips as she crawled through the unforgiving Nevada desert, her canteen empty for 2 days and her horse dead since yesterday morning. Nevada Territory, 1875. Amelia's fingers clawed at the dry earth as she pulled herself forward another few inches. Her once fine traveling dress was torn and filthy, her auburn hair matted with dust and sweat. She had been so certain taking the shortcut to Virginia City would save her time. Instead, it might cost her life. The stagecoach robbery 3 days ago had left her stranded. The bandits had taken everything of value, including her water, food, and the horses pulling the coach. The other passengers, a banker and an elderly couple, had decided to follow the main trail back to the last town. Amelia, however, knew she was expected in Virginia City. Her cousin's wedding was in 5 days, and she had promised to be there. Just over that ridge, the stagecoach driver had told her before they parted ways. 3 days' ride at most. But her horse had collapsed under the punishing heat, and now Amelia was alone, crawling through an endless sea of sand and scrub brush. A buzzard circled overhead, its patient vigil a grim reminder of her predicament. Amelia's throat felt like sandpaper, her tongue swollen and useless in her mouth. The horizon wavered in the heat as she squinted at what appeared to be a small rise in the distance. If she could just make it there, perhaps she could spot water or signs of civilization. Her arms trembled as she dragged herself forward. The sun seemed to press her into the earth, each movement requiring monumental effort. Dark spots danced at the edges of her vision, threatening to engulf her consciousness. "Not yet," she whispered, her voice a raspy whisper. Not like this. Just as her strength finally gave out, the ground beneath her vibrated slightly. At first, she thought it was simply her weakened body surrendering to exhaustion, but the vibration grew stronger. Hoofbeats. With her last ounce of strength, Amelia lifted her head and saw a silhouette against the blazing sun, a man on horseback cresting the ridge before her. She tried to call out, but no sound emerged from her parched throat. Instead, she raised a trembling hand before collapsing face first into the burning sand. The last thing she heard was the pounding of hooves growing louder and the jingle of spurs. Vincent Walters had been tracking the stagecoach robbers for 2 days. As a bounty hunter, he rarely took time off from pursuing his quarry, but something about the tracks he'd found troubled him. The gang had split up, which was unusual, and one set of tracks, a single rider on a struggling horse, had veered away from the others toward open desert. He'd followed the strange trail, driven by instinct and the reputation he'd built over 5 years of hunting men across the Western Territories. His keen eyes spotted the dead horse from half a mile away, and it didn't take much more searching to find the desperate trail of someone crawling through the desert. When he saw the woman's body sprawled in the sand, he spurred his horse forward, leaping from the saddle before his mount had fully stopped. "Madam, madam," Vincent knelt beside her, gently turning her over. Her face was red and blistered from the sun, her lips cracked and bleeding. But she was breathing barely. Without hesitation, Vincent uncorked his canteen and lifted her head. "Easy now," he murmured, dribbling a small amount of water onto her parched lips. "Not too much at once." Amelia's eyelids fluttered, and she moaned softly as the water touched her mouth. Instinctively, she tried to grab for the canteen, but Vincent held it firmly. "Slow and steady," he said. "Too much water too fast will make you sick." Her eyes opened, hazel eyes, he noticed, with flecks of gold around the pupils. They were glassy with dehydration, but still alert enough to fix on his face. "Thank you," she managed to whisper after a few more sips. Vincent nodded, his weathered face betraying little emotion. He was 32, with a lean, muscular build earned from years in the saddle. His dark hair was streaked with premature gray at the temples, and a scar ran along his jawline, a souvenir from a knife fight in Dodge City 3 years ago. "Can you tell me your name, madam?" he asked, helping her sit up slightly. "Amelia," she said, her voice stronger now. "Amelia Prescott." "Vincent Walters," he replied. "Most folks just call me Vince." He gave her more water, then dampened his bandana and wiped her face gently, cleaning away the dust and revealing a delicate bone structure beneath the sunburn. She She was young, mid-20s, he guessed, and despite her current state, he could tell she was beautiful. "Were you on the stagecoach that was robbed?" he asked. Amelia nodded weakly. "2 days ago, or 3, I've lost track." 3, Vincent confirmed. "I've been tracking those bandits since they hit the stage. Found your horse back yonder." "I was trying to reach Virginia City," she explained. "My cousin is getting married." Vincent shook his head, frowning. "You're nowhere near Virginia City, Miss Prescott. You're heading straight into the Painted Desert. Another day out here and I'd have found nothing but bones." Amelia's eyes widened in horror, and tears welled up, cutting clean tracks through the dust on her cheeks. "Here now," Vincent said awkwardly, unused to comforting distressed women. "You're safe now. Can you stand? We need to get you to shade." With his help, Amelia managed to get to her feet, though she swayed dangerously. Vincent steadied her with a strong arm around her waist. "My horse can carry double for a while," he said. "There's a line shack about 10 miles east of here. We can rest there before heading to the nearest town." "Your bounty," Amelia protested weakly. "The robbers." Vincent's expression hardened. "They'll keep. Right now, you need shelter and medical attention." He helped her onto his horse, a sturdy buckskin gelding, then mounted behind her. Amelia stiffened at the unfamiliar intimacy, but as they rode, her exhaustion overcame her propriety, and she leaned back against his chest. Vincent kept one arm around her waist to steady her, his jaw clenched as he felt her body relax against his. It had been a long time since he'd been this close to a woman, especially one who wasn't trying to shoot him or steal his bounty money. "Stay awake, Miss Prescott," he said, his voice gruff. "Talk to me." "What should I say?" she murmured drowsily. "Tell me about Virginia City. Why is your cousin getting married there?" As they rode, Amelia told him about her cousin Charlotte, who had fallen in love with a silver mine owner. She talked about her family back in Boston, her late father's shipping business, and her mother's disapproval of her traveling west alone. "Mother said the frontier would eat a proper lady alive," Amelia said with a weak laugh. "I suppose she was nearly right." "The desert doesn't care if you're proper or not," Vincent replied. "It'll kill anyone who doesn't respect it." By the time they reached the line shack, a crude one-room cabin used by cowboys during cattle drives, the sun was beginning to set. Vincent helped Amelia dismount, supporting most of her weight as they entered the dusty interior. The shack was basic but contained the essentials: a small iron stove, a narrow cot with a thin mattress, a rough-hewn table, and a single chair. Vincent eased Amelia onto the cot. "Rest here," he said. "I'll tend to my horse and see if there's any food stored." Outside, Vincent unsaddled his buckskin and rubbed him down before setting him to graze on the sparse vegetation. He checked his supplies: jerky, coffee, beans, and half a loaf of bread from the last town. It would have to do. When he returned to the shack, Amelia was sitting up, looking around with more alertness than before. "It's not much," Vincent said apologetically, setting his saddlebags on the table. "It has a roof and walls," Amelia replied. "After the desert, it might as well be a palace." Vincent smiled slightly, surprised by her resilience. He built a small fire in the stove and set a pot of beans to cook, then offered her more water and a piece of jerky. "Chew it slowly," he advised. "Your stomach needs to remember how to work." As night fell, the temperature dropped rapidly, as it always did in the desert. Vincent found an old wool blanket in a trunk and draped it around Amelia's shoulders. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything. I'd be dead if you hadn't found me." Vincent shrugged uncomfortably. "Anyone would have done the same." "But it wasn't anyone," Amelia insisted. "It was you." Their eyes met across the small space, and Vincent felt something shift in his chest, a tightness that had nothing to do with the dry desert air. He looked away first. "You should sleep," he said gruffly. "We'll head for Silver Springs tomorrow. It's a 2-day ride, but there's a doctor there who can tend to your sunburn properly." "What about Virginia City?" "My cousin's wedding is 5 days from now," you said. "Silver Springs has a telegraph office. You can send a message explaining what happened." Amelia nodded reluctantly. "I suppose you're right." Vincent prepared a simple meal of beans and bread, which they ate in companionable silence. Afterward, he insisted she take the cot while he spread his bedroll on the floor. "I've slept on worse," he assured her when she protested. As they settled in for the night, Amelia's voice came softly through the darkness. "Mr. Walters, Vincent." "Yes, Miss Prescott. How did you become a bounty hunter?" Vincent was silent for so long that Amelia thought he might have fallen asleep. Finally he spoke, his deep voice barely above a whisper. "I was a rancher once, had a small spread in Wyoming. My wife and I were going to raise horses." He paused. "Rustlers came one night. I was in town picking up supplies by the time I got back." "I'm so sorry," Amelia said softly. "The law couldn't catch them, or wouldn't, so I did it myself, found all 5 of them. After that I realized I had a knack for tracking men who didn't want to be found, and your ranch sold it. Couldn't stay there." Another silence fell, this one heavy with unspoken grief. "Good night, Mr. Walters," Amelia finally said. "Good night, Miss Prescott." The next morning, Amelia awoke feeling stronger. Vincent had already been up for hours, refilling their canteens from a small spring behind the shack and preparing a breakfast of coffee and more beans. "Your color's better," he observed as she joined him at the table. "How do you feel?" "Like I've been trampled by a herd of buffalo," Amelia admitted with a small smile. "But I'll live thanks to you." After breakfast, they set out for Silver Springs. The journey was slow, as Vincent's horse couldn't maintain a fast pace with 2 riders. They talked intermittently, sharing stories of their lives. Vincent was surprised by how easily conversation flowed with Amelia. Despite her refined upbringing, she was curious about the West and asked intelligent questions about his work. "Aren't you afraid?" she asked at one point. "Hunting dangerous men," Vincent considered the question. "I'm cautious. There's a difference. Fear makes you reckless. Caution keeps you alive." By nightfall, they had covered about half the distance to Silver Springs. They made camp in a small canyon that offered protection from the wind. Vincent built a fire and prepared another simple meal. As they sat beside the fire, Amelia studied his profile. In the flickering light, the hard lines of his face softened slightly. She wondered about the woman he had lost and the life he might have had. "Tell me about Boston," Vincent said suddenly, interrupting her thoughts. Amelia smiled. "It's beautiful in the spring when the public garden blooms. And in autumn when the leaves change. It's civilized and cultured and—" She trailed off. "And what?" "And sometimes suffocating," she admitted. "Everyone knows exactly who you are and what you should be doing. Every step is prescribed from birth." "Is that why you came west, to escape?" Amelia shook her head. "I came for my cousin's wedding, but I've always been curious about the frontier. My father used to tell me stories about his travels west before he settled in Boston. And now that you've nearly died in the desert, still curious." "More than ever," she said with surprising firmness. "There's something honest about the desert. It doesn't pretend to be anything other than what it is." Vincent looked at her with newfound respect. "You're not like any Boston lady I've met before." "How many Boston ladies have you rescued from certain death in the desert?" she teased. "Just the one," he replied with a rare smile. The next day's journey was harder. The terrain grew rockier and the sun beat down relentlessly. By mid-afternoon, Vincent's horse was showing signs of fatigue. "We'll stop at the next water source," he decided. "Let him rest properly." They found a small spring bubbling from a rocky outcropping and made camp early. While Vincent tended to his horse, Amelia explored the area, careful to stay within sight. "Look at these," she called, pointing to some faded markings on a nearby rock face. Vincent joined her, studying the ancient petroglyphs. "Apache, maybe, or older." "What do they mean?" "This one's water," he said, pointing to a wavy line. "That's important enough to mark when you live in the desert." Amelia traced the symbol with her finger. "It's amazing to think of all the people who have passed through here over the centuries, all seeking the same basic needs: water, shelter, safety." Vincent watched her, struck by her contemplative mood. Most people he encountered were focused only on immediate concerns: gold, money, escape. Amelia seemed to see beyond the surface of things. That evening, as they shared the last of Vincent's supplies, Amelia asked the question that had been on her mind. "What will you do after you take me to Silver Springs?" "Continue tracking the stagecoach robbers," Vincent nodded. "It's my job." "Is it just the money, the bounty?" He frowned, considering. "It started that way. Now, I don't know. Someone needs to bring them to justice." And after them, will there always be another bounty to chase? The question hung in the air between them. Vincent didn't answer immediately, poking at the fire with a stick. I haven't thought much beyond the next job, he finally admitted. Haven't had reason to. Their eyes met across the fire, and something unspoken passed between them. Amelia looked away first, a flush creeping up her neck that had nothing to do with her sunburn. That night, as they prepared to sleep under the stars, a coyote howled in the distance. Amelia shivered despite the warm evening. They won't come near the fire, Vincent assured her, noticing her unease. It's not that, she said. It just sounds so lonely. Vincent looked at her, his expression unreadable in the firelight. You get used to it, the loneliness. Do you? Really? He didn't answer, but later, as Amelia drifted off to sleep, she felt his bedroll move slightly closer to hers than it had been the previous night. They reached Silver Springs by mid-afternoon the following day. The small mining town was a welcome sight after days in the wilderness, though its dusty Main Street and weathered buildings were a far cry from Boston's cobblestone avenues. Vincent took Amelia directly to the doctor, a gruff older man named Ferguson who tutted over her sunburn and dehydration. You're lucky to be alive, young lady, he pronounced after examining her. Another day in that desert without water, and we'd be measuring you for a pine box. I had help, Amelia said, glancing at Vincent, who stood awkwardly by the door. After the doctor had treated her burns and given her a tonic for her weakened condition, Vincent escorted her to the town's only hotel, a 2-story building that had seen better days. I'll secure you a room, he said as they entered the modest lobby. Then take you to the telegraph office so you can contact your cousin. Amelia nodded, suddenly aware of how their journey together was coming to an end. The realization brought an unexpected pang of sadness. While Vincent spoke with the hotel clerk, she studied him from across the room. His broad shoulders and confident stance drew glances from 2 women sitting in the lobby. Amelia felt a flicker of something that might have been jealousy. Room's ready, Vincent said, returning with a key. It's not fancy, but it's clean. The hotel has a dining room that serves decent food. Will you join me for dinner? Amelia asked impulsively. Vincent hesitated. I should check in with the sheriff, see if there's any news about those robbers. Of course, she said, trying to hide her disappointment. You have work to do. Vincent walked her upstairs to her room, a small space with a narrow bed, washstand, and window overlooking the main street. I'll come back in an hour to take you to the telegraph office, he said, lingering in the doorway. Thank you. Amelia moved to close the door, then stopped. Vincent, I mean it, thank you for saving my life. His expression softened. Get some rest, Miss Prescott. True to his word, Vincent returned an hour later. They walked to the telegraph office, where Amelia sent a message to her cousin explaining her ordeal and expressing regret that she would miss the wedding. The operator says there's a stagecoach leaving for Virginia City tomorrow afternoon, Vincent informed her as they left the office. If you're feeling strong enough, you could still make it for the wedding. Amelia looked at him in surprise. You think I should go? You came all this way, he said with a shrug. Seems a shame to turn back now. They stood in the street, the setting sun painting the dusty buildings in shades of gold and amber. People moved around them, going about their evening business, but Amelia was only aware of Vincent, his steady presence, his watchful eyes. Will you have dinner with me now? She asked again. This time he nodded. The hotel dining room was nearly full when they arrived, but the proprietor found them a small table in the corner. Vincent seemed uncomfortable at first, glancing around as if expecting trouble. Gradually, as they ordered and began to eat, he relaxed. Did you speak with the sheriff? Amelia asked. Yes, the gang was spotted heading toward Utah territory. I'll leave in the morning to pick up their trail. The words landed like stones between them. Amelia pushed her food around her plate, her appetite suddenly gone. I see. It's my job, Vincent said, as if reminding himself as much as her, of course. Amelia forced a smile, and I have a stagecoach to catch tomorrow. They finished their meal in awkward silence, the easy companionship of the trail somehow lost in the confines of civilization. After dinner, Vincent walked Amelia back to her room. At her door, they faced each other uncertainly. Well, Amelia said. "I suppose this is goodbye, Mr. Walters." "I suppose it is, Miss Prescott." Neither moved. In the narrow hallway, Vincent seemed larger than life, his presence filling the space between them. "I hope you catch your outlaws," Amelia said softly. "I hope your cousin's wedding is everything she wishes for." Amelia extended her hand. Vincent took it, his calloused palm warm against her skin. Instead of shaking it, he simply held it for a moment, his thumb brushing lightly across her knuckles. "Goodbye, Amelia," he said, using her first name for the first time. Before she could respond, he released her hand and turned away, his spurs jingling softly as he walked down the hall. Amelia stood at her door long after he had disappeared down the stairs, her hand still tingling from his touch. That night, she slept fitfully, dreaming of endless desert and a solitary rider always just beyond her reach. She awoke before dawn, her decision made. Dressing quickly, Amelia made her way downstairs to the hotel desk. The night clerk, half asleep at his post, jolted awake at her approach. "Madam, is something wrong with your room?" "No, the room is fine. I need to know where I might find Mr. Walters, the bounty hunter who came in with me yesterday." The clerk scratched his head. "If he's tracking, he'd likely check his gear at the livery before heading out." Old Man Jenkins opens at first light. Amelia thanked him and hurried outside. The sky was just beginning to lighten in the east as she made her way to the livery stable at the edge of town. As she approached, she saw Vincent leading his buckskin out of the barn, saddlebags packed and rifle secured in its scabbard. He stopped short when he saw her, surprise evident on his face. "Amelia, what are you doing here?" She took a deep breath. "I'm not going to Virginia City." Vincent frowned. "Your cousin's wedding, she'll understand. She has dozens of cousins." Amelia stepped closer. "The truth is, I don't want to say goodbye yet." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying." Amelia faltered, then squared her shoulders. "I'm saying that when you found me in the desert, you gave me more than water. You showed me a different kind of life. A real life without pretense." Vincent's expression remained guarded. "The life of a bounty hunter is dangerous and lonely. It's no place for a woman like you. A woman like me." Amelia's eyes flashed. "You mean a woman who survived 3 days in the desert, who didn't complain once during our journey here, who wants more from life than Boston parlors and prescribed expectations." A hint of a smile touched Vincent's lips. "You're stubborn, I'll give you that." "I'm not asking to follow you on this hunt," Amelia clarified. "I'm asking if, when you're done, you might consider coming back here. We could talk about possibilities." Vincent was silent for a long moment, studying her face in the growing light. Finally, he nodded. "I'll be back in 2 weeks." 3 at most. Amelia's heart leaped. "I'll be here." "It won't be easy," he warned. "I'm not an easy man to love." The word hung between them, neither acknowledging its weight. "I don't want easy," Amelia said. "I want real." Vincent stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth of his body in the cool morning air. "You should know," he said quietly, "I haven't felt this way since before. It scares me more than any outlaw ever has." Amelia reached up, gently touching the scar along his jawline. "Being afraid just means you have something worth losing. Isn't that what you told me about caution?" Vincent caught her hand, holding it against his face. Then, with deliberate slowness, he leaned down and kissed her. It was a gentle kiss, tentative at first, then deepening as Amelia responded, rising on her tiptoes to meet him. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing harder. Vincent rested his forehead against hers. 3 weeks, he promised. "Not a day longer." "I'll be waiting," Amelia said. "Be careful." Vincent mounted his horse, looking down at her with an expression that made her breath catch. "I have a reason to be careful now," he said. As she watched him ride away, Amelia touched her lips, still feeling the pressure of his kiss. For the first time since leaving Boston, she felt truly alive, not because of the danger she had survived, but because of the promise of what might come next. True to his word, Vincent returned to Silver Springs exactly 3 weeks later. During his absence, Amelia had made herself useful in town, helping at the small schoolhouse and assisting the doctor who had treated her. The townspeople had grown fond of the educated Eastern woman with her kind manner and unexpected resilience. When Vincent rode into town, dusty and weary but triumphant, Amelia was waiting on the hotel porch. Their reunion kiss caused quite a stir among the local gossips, but neither of them cared. Over dinner that night, Vincent told her about capturing the outlaws and collecting the bounty. Then, to Amelia's surprise, he produced a folded document from his vest pocket. "What's this?" she asked as he handed it to her. "Deed to a small ranch outside of town. Nothing fancy, a cabin, a barn, some decent grazing land." He looked uncharacteristically nervous. "I thought, if you wanted to stay in the West, with me." Amelia unfolded the document with trembling hands. "Vincent Walters, are you asking me to marry you?" "I'm asking if you might consider a life that's part ranch, part bounty hunting, at least until we get the ranch properly established." "It won't be Boston, but yes," Amelia interrupted. "Yes to all of it." 6 months later, they were married in the small church in Silver Springs. Amelia wore a simple white dress ordered from a catalog, and Vincent wore the first new suit he'd owned in years. Her cousin Charlotte came from Virginia City with her husband, forgiving Amelia completely for missing her wedding once she understood the circumstances. As they exchanged vows, Amelia thought about the desert where they had met, how something so harsh and unforgiving could ultimately lead to such happiness. Vincent had given her water when she was dying of thirst, but more importantly, he had given her a love as vast and real as the western landscape itself. Their ranch grew slowly but steadily. Vincent took fewer bounty hunting jobs as time passed, finding more satisfaction in building something lasting with Amelia. Together, they created a home that combined the best of her Eastern refinement and his Western practicality. 2 years after their marriage, they welcomed a daughter, whom they named Hope, a fitting name for a child born from a chance encounter in the desert, where hope had seemed as scarce as water. On summer evenings, they would sit on their porch watching the sunset paint the distant mountains, Vincent's arm around Amelia's shoulders, their daughter playing at their feet. And sometimes, when the coyotes howled in the distance, Amelia would look at her husband and smile, remembering a time when such sounds had seemed lonely rather than like the wild, beautiful music of home.